Welcome nerds, in this video we'll be talking about Batwoman Season 1 and is it quite what the haters make it out to be? If you were just to go by imdb.com, you would think that Batwoman, particularly Season 1, is the worst TV show ever. It will allegedly promote anti-man agendas, anti-male agendas, always portrays all its men as weak. The women are strong, and it's telling us that it's bad to be a man, but it's good to be a woman, or anything else, but just don't be a man. Well, despite that 3.6 score on imdb.com, I'm here to tell you that the real men, quite enjoy Batwoman. I am a real man in a relationship with a woman. I have 2 children, one a daughter, one a son, and I was not threatened by Batwoman, the TV show, at all. I didn't think that the show was making any statements about how I should feel bad to be a man, particularly a white man. I didn't think there was any agenda against me. It has a female lead. You would expect the show to skew towards the female perspective. That's just how these things work. It's how they operate. These people who complain about Batwoman taking that perspective, that viewpoint, they don't realise that they see the male equivalent to that on all the other shows led by male heroes. There was nothing in this show that should ever make you feel bad about being male, and there's nothing in the show that should make you feel bad about being straight. The only people that this show called out were homophobic people, and it was done in a hilariously funny way. I'm sat here as a heterosexual man watching Batwoman Season 1 on Blu-ray on my nice big 50-inch TV with my partner, and I'm laughing when Kate Kane buys a pub that she's going to do up and reopen as a gay bar right opposite a restaurant where she encountered a homophobic restaurant owner, and how she's doing it deliberately just to really wind up that homophobic person. That's funny. She didn't make the bar to make all the heterosexual people think that they should feel threatened by gay people. She did it to get at the homophobic person. And that's very few times we see that even through the show. They could have done it more. A lot of us have gay friends, or whatever they may identify as. We only see, even as their friends, a little small fraction of the struggles that a lot of them deal with every day that we, by our own privilege, don't have to deal with. But did Batwoman beat me over the head with some agenda? No. It has a lesbian lead who had lesbian relationships on the show and who stood by her own sexuality and preference. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. So let's leave that. The problem is, for anyone who's scoring this show so low on IMDb and trying to tank the show's ratings on Rotten Tomatoes or trying to complain about it on YouTube, once you get rid of that argument, they ain't got one. And they barely got anything there anyway. I know I'm going to become a target for calling these people out, but it's just how it is. Batwoman the show, it's a return to the sort of street crime vibe, proper vigilantism that we haven't really seen in the most recent CW shows. Arrow, which had aired its final season at the same time as Batwoman's first season, really moved away from street crime stuff, and it was dealing with the multiverse, a threat to the multiverse and Earth as a whole. And there was times in Arrow's run where it kind of veered away from its sort of street crime level roots, whereas the other shows are dealing with meta-humans who've got superpowers and things like that. And I'm aware we get some of that in Batwoman, but the show feels much more grounded. For that reason, it's a perfect replacement for Arrow, which has now ended. James Bamford, who came over and directed an episode of the show, incredible. We'll talk about James later. The Arrow influences are real in Batwoman. Let's talk about the plot of the season. I won't spoil any big twists for you in this video at all, but we are going to touch on certain plot lines. First things first, the show mostly is about Kate Kane's relationship with her father, and more importantly, it's about her relationship with her sister, who we found out very quickly is actually the villain of the show. And the funny thing here is that the villain Alice, who Kate knew as Beth before, and this is about the biggest spoiler you're going to get, so don't worry. There was an accident that happened when they were young. Everyone assumed that Beth was dead, but she wasn't. She's been turned into a villain, essentially. And actually, the show's really delivered one of the best villains that I think the Arrowverse has done. You talk about Reverse Flash, fantastic villain, Eobard Thawne. Deathstroke, Prometheus, all these top quality villains that we've had through the Arrowverse. Alice slash Beth is one of the finest, and I'll tell you one reason why. You kind of understand why she is the way she is. And she does some truly evil things in this show. She certainly likes to, she likes to craft things, shall we say. She is responsible for some pretty brutal deaths as well, and needless deaths. She is truly a villain. There's no redeeming her, I don't think, anyway. And whereas, Kate Kane will have to learn that herself throughout the series. But when you see the origins of Alice, and it's not just a one episode and done. Oh, there we go. We've done the flashback story now. Now we know why Alice is the way she is. We see it in like 3 or 4 episodes where we venture into the past with Alice and we see just what she went through. And you understand why she ended up the way she did. You don't support it. You're not rooting for her to then go and get payback on everyone. It's not like that. It's not glorifying anything. It never glorifies Alice's behaviour. But you do understand where it's come from. You understand why she is a sadistic serial killer. You understand why she's quoting the Alice in Wonderland books. You understand why she's so angry with her father, who happens to be the head of a security organisation that kind of policed Gotham City, particularly since Batman's been gone. They're called the Crows. So Kate is having to battle with that. Is Beth still there somewhere, or is she gone completely? And that's the story of our season. It doesn't waste any time sort of trying to get into the meat of that story. We're not made to wait any more than 40 minutes to find out who Alice is and her relationship to Kate. And then there's some twists and turns. This is a real old school Hourverse where we get some great cliffhangers every single episode to make you want to watch the following week. I quite often prefer to watch these shows on Blu-ray so I can binge, because the cliffhangers make me want to watch that next episode. Batwoman did that so many times. There's so many times I thought, I've got to go to bed. I need to sleep. Oh my god, they just dropped that cliffhanger and now I need to go watch it. And the story goes places you don't expect. The bad guys at the end of the season might not be who you expect them to be. Or maybe they will be. People come and go from the show as it goes on. And I like that. And you weren't 100% sure who was going to end up being the main nemesis at the end of the season, because as they're trying to maybe redeem some characters, you see some other bad guys come in. And then you think, oh, right, that's the person who we're going to be going against this time. Then it completely flips. For that reason, the show was compelling as well. Character relationships. I've already said we had Alice and Kate. Kate and Sophie. Sophie is Kate's ex-girlfriend, who is in a much different situation when Kate comes back to Gotham at the start of the show. And the reason for their breakup, I mean, it's brutal. And I imagine it has had to happen a lot in the world. There's no agenda to it. I think they were just showing us something that does happen or is required to happen sometimes. We know that military organizations and things like that do not tend to treat same-sex relationships with the respect that they do, and with the general rights and opportunities that they do for a straight relationship. The show touched on that very bravely, I thought, and did a very good job presenting it to us. Kate and Luke. Luke is Luke Fox, Lucas Fox, son of Lucius Fox, who you may know from other Batman films and such, or the comics if you read those. Lucius Fox has worked with Batman. In this show, Lucius is dead, and that is a part of the show as well, particularly as it ramps up towards the end. The whole storyline surrounding Lucius Fox's death becomes much more major on the show. Obviously, Batman's not around as well, so our cast of heroes, they're just going off what they thought was true about the fates of Batman and Lucius, and it's interesting how that again gets flipped on his head as well. Alice and Jacob Kane, her father, is a really interesting relationship. I'm father, so imagine as a father that you unknowingly gave up on finding your missing daughter. I can identify with Jacob for that. I can identify with Alice's perspective on that, because how do you feel as a child? Well, I've not been in that situation, but as a father, I can imagine how my child would feel if I abandoned them like that. Again, it's that whole thing of, oh, you kind of understand where Alice is coming from. That doesn't mean Jacob's a bad guy. It doesn't mean Kate's a bad guy. The Kane family, none of them were villains in the situation that created all of this. And I love that about the show. I think they presented it really well to us. Kate has a good relationship with Jacob as well. It kind of got lost in the middle of the season, if I'm honest. I didn't dwell on it too much. But, we've seen that done in a lot of the Arrowverse shows anyway. Barry and his dad was a big driving force the first season. Oliver Queen had his relationship with his mother for the first 2 seasons. And obviously, her dad's not aware that she's Batwoman. So that's fun as well. So where that all goes is good fun. The character relationships are really good. The cast is incredibly strong on this show. You see some characters you wouldn't expect to see. Alfred Pennyworth's daughter on the show. I thought it was a great twist. I don't think we get any real mention of what happened to Alfred, but given the time difference and Batman had been working for a number of years before his disappearance, my money is that Alfred is gone. He's probably dead. Probably croaked it. Who knows? So let's go through a few of my favourite things about the show, because I don't do negativity on this show. I want to enjoy the things that I watch. I don't watch anything that I don't enjoy, because I ain't got time for that in my life. So what did I enjoy about this season? My favourite episode was the last episode before the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. That episode is called A Mad Tea Party. And in this episode, the reason I love it so much, and I cannot spoil it because that would ruin the whole episode for you, but we can talk about it in the comments maybe, so leave some comments. But the twists, the turns, how it cements Alice is a really just screwed up villain. It's sick, but it's so damn compelling to watch. And you don't realise actually how much that episode is setting up other stuff in the season as well, such as other villains. You don't even know that one particular villain is in this episode. You don't know they're there. They are there. You see the character, but you don't know who they are. That was definitely my favourite episode. It was left on a real good cliffhangers. They must have hated that Crisis then came, because that would have got really in the way of everything they wanted to do. And they did let Earth change a little bit, because the show switches from Earth 1 to Earth Prime. Now, I'll talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths in another video, but for people who don't understand what that is, there's a big crossover between all the shows in the Arrowverse, and it took place in the 9th episode of Batwoman. So in that event, Earth and all other Earths that exist were destroyed. The good guys eventually create a new Earth called Earth Prime, and everyone has their memories. And a lot of the stuff, well, most of the stuff we've seen happen did still happen, but maybe a little differently. And this creates a really interesting problem for Kate Kane, for something that this new Earth brings to her and brings back to her. It leads to one of the most shocking moments of the whole show, I think. Flash and Supergirl definitely leaned into that post-crisis concept more, as you would expect, but Batwoman did pay it some respect. It did a lot more for it than I thought Black Lightning season 3 did anyway. For favourite character moment, I think it probably came in that same episode 8 of season 1. It's when Kate Kane realises that Alice is not Beth, and it comes towards the end, and I think it's the best acting performance that Ruby Rose does on the show. It's a really, really good character moment for her as well, without spoiling it. But that's one of my favourite character moments. My favourite, probably whole moment of the whole show, was an action sequence that took place in, I think it was episode 18 off the top of my head. I've written down the name actually. So it was If You Believe in Me, I'll Believe in You. So yeah, it was episode 18. Directed by James Bamford. People may recognise the name from Arrow. He directed, I think, 10 or more episodes of Arrow. He was a stunt coordinator over there. His action sequences on Arrow are incredible. Arrow's action sequences, definitely inspired by, I think, what Daredevil was doing. But for them to do it on a show with probably half the shooting time per episode and probably half the budget, what Bamford helped put together on Arrow is incredible. And if there's one criticism of the action scenes on Batwoman, is that they kind of were a bit naff early on. I was dying to get that Arrow vibe. I was watching it thinking, right, when would Arrow have stopped production? Because if I was the producers, I'd be grabbing the Arrow stunt department and bringing them onto my show. Because there was nothing to the fights really, it was a couple of punches and such. But Arrow's fight scenes always felt so damn real, and like you were there, and a lot of them in one shot. Now, when James Bamford did direct an episode of Batwoman, I knew, and I didn't know his name was on it. But I sat here and I watched this amazing action sequence to open the episode that looked nothing like anything we'd seen on Batwoman so far. And I turned to my partner, who has no idea who James Bamford is, and I said, I bet you James Bamford directed this episode. And sure enough, we see the opening title card. We come to all the credits coming up on the screen. Directed by James Bamford. Imagine being a TV director. Imagine being a TV director and having a style so clearly iconic's the wrong word, but so identifiable that someone can tell straight away that you directed an episode of a TV show. I think that's incredible for James Bamford, and I hope he's back a lot in season 2, or at least involved in a lot of the choreography, because it was noticeably better in his stuff, and it felt more like it was part of the Batman universe. The fight, because before that, I just wasn't buying into the fights a bit. My favorite character has got to be Alice. Rachel Skarsten does such a good job as her. She's such a messed up character, delicious in how messed up she is. It's going to be interesting to see how she's going to tie herself into the second season, given the big change I'll discuss in a moment. But I think that she is just a wonderful, wonderful character. So, I've used the word delicious already, so I don't know what to say, but just watching her, she just steals every scene and just the layers that were added to her. And okay, we've got to thank the writers for that. Let's not just say it's all down to the actor, but the writers gave her the material and she just went. Best performance overall was also, I think, Rachel Skarsten. She was just, oh god, it's hard to describe. If you haven't seen it, it's hard to describe. But she's just completely mad as Alice, but not in a way that is cheesy. And she doesn't chew up the dialogue in the scene. She's brilliant with it, but it feels real. You kind of like, if I was sitting there and she walked into my lounge after watching that, and she's got a Swiss Army knife or whatever it is she's got, and she's twirling that around, I would be terrified, genuinely scared. I would be laughing at her and think she's a cool villain. I would be thinking, oh my god, she's going to kill me, and she's going to carve me up. She's probably going to steal my face. Don't know who would want this face though, but fair play. Special shout out actually to Nicole Kang as well, who played Mary on the show, which is Kate's, actually Anne Alice's stepsister, who's like a socialite, but almost that is like a Bruce Wayne fake identity in a way. And Mary, what Mary does in her free time for her work is I think one of the best parts of the show, and has one of the best sets for the show. That was my personal opinion. I just loved it. In the moments when Nicole Kang got to strip back the socialite persona and just be the human being Mary, I thought, wow, just her voice changes, her eyes, everything about her. Oh, I just want to see her and I just want to watch a film with her, just where she's just like in every scene, just being dramatic. Not like OTT. I just mean like just a proper stripped back performance throughout, because I thought she was fantastic. But Rachel Skarsten wins. She wins just because of Alice. But let's see in season 2 who wins that one, because they're both going to be there. So let's have a look. So what did I not like? I don't want to dwell on things I dislike, but if there's one thing I didn't like about Batwoman season 1, and I wish they would change, it would have been Ruby Rose. Anyone watching this may not know that Ruby Rose has left the role of Batwoman. Kate Kane is no more, so we will be seeing the replacement very soon. But Ruby Rose never came off as wanting to be there. That's my own personal feeling. I don't know if that's the way she was playing the role, but it came off to me as she didn't want to be there. And it could be that because I knew she was going, that I was looking for that. So that actually might be on me as a viewer. But I just felt she was never completely connected with the material in the way that Grant Gustin or Stephen Amell or Melissa Benoist might be, you know? And I never felt her presence in the suit. She used to just like walk into scenes in the Batwoman suit, and just the posture didn't feel right. There was no presence to her. That's what I think anyway. So her leaving the show sounds like it's best for everyone concerned. Would I have recast? Kate Kane? Hard to say, because I generally do really dislike recastings, but I can understand the fans who would have liked to see a recast. But I'm actually one of the fans who's grateful for the change. The only thing I'm obviously worried about is it's like a soft reset. Every character is linked to Kate Kane in season 1, so how are they going to connect that to the new lead? The new lead will have to bring some of her own characters connected to her, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. So were the haters right about Batwoman? No, they weren't. If you enjoy any of the Arrowverse shows, you'll enjoy Batwoman. If you enjoy any 22 or so episode seasons, you'll enjoy Batwoman. I'm talking about superhero shows at that length. If your thing is more like the 10 to 12 episodes, then you'll probably get into this anyway. It's only 20 episodes. The production was cut short because of COVID-19. But where the show ends is a fantastic ending point for the season. It works perfectly. The cliffhanger moment, wow. That is how you'd end a season. I would have ended season 1 with that cliffhanger anyway. Yeah, I think it's a good show. And haters, as always, I'm going to give you a thumbs down, because for me, it's a thumbs up for Batwoman. And I can't wait to see season 2 when it starts. How did you feel about Batwoman season 1? Let me know in the comments. Leave a comment, let me know. And don't forget to like this video.